we get probably 30 to 40 inbound meetings a day. So like, we're obsessed with how fast do we respond, how personalized is that response, and make sure nothing falls through the crack.
I think the word depth is not being used, and I think it's a word that we should be paying attention to.
The customer has to be the hero. The customer has to be at the center of the narrative, regardless of the tool set and everything else. And so it's like, what does their world look like today?
Real talk backed up with real action. This is GTM News Desk.
I'm Rachel Downey.
And I'm Mark Hillens.
Let's see what's trending. Welcome to Go-to-Market News Desk. I am sitting as your co-pilot and host for this episode, Rachel Downey, and sitting with me today is our spicy Mark, and I am very excited to hear what our spicy Mark has to share with us today. And by the way, it is Friday, and I could use a spicy margarita.
I wish I was drinking a margarita right now, and it's only 10:48 in the morning. I would be drinking right now. I need one.
It's been that kind of week.
Yeah, it just kind of starts of the day. I'm trying to buy a new house. I effing hate buying new houses.
The worst.
Worst, unless you have cash, like full cash, which I have bought 2 houses with full cash in the past.
Well, good for you. Humble brag.
Just savings, like saving a lot. Like, I don't know, whatever.
He's a good saver, y'all.
I do save a lot of money. Like, you should save a lot of money. If you don't save a lot of money, please save some money.
I'm a spender, but
well, you can be both.
Okay. Different podcasts for different problems.
Yeah, you can be both. You can spender, saver. Anyway, I like to spend money. Now I got completely sidetracked.
Talking about money, we've got a big topic, and it is triggered by money. So let's talk about that.
Segment 1, Clay just raised $100 million at like a $3.1 billion valuation. Insanity, in my opinion. But you can do them if you want Clay. Like, you can do that. The bigger story is, Amos, who was on this podcast. Great episode. Definitely listen to it.
Great episode.
From Get Swan, did an interesting LinkedIn post about it. And I feel like, Rachel, I have the experience to actually give a critique on what's going on with Clay and this LinkedIn post, because I have done this play twice. Once at HubSpot, once at Drift. The whole premise is Clay created this new title. You know what the new title is, Rachel?
I don't know. Hype person, growth engineer, somebody's mom.
All of that is true except somebody's mom. Well, I guess it is. No, actually, that's true too, because they are someone's mom. But yes, they created a new title called GTM Engineer. And look, there's like RevOps that was created as a title, ABM. Others have been created. Yeah, I don't think Inbound Marketer ever caught on per se, but there were some, like the Salesforce Admin was created as a title, like because Salesforce was so clunky, needed admins. Whatever. We tried to create conversational marketers at Drift. It's when someone creates a new category, and Clay's not exactly creating a new category. They kind of are, right? With this whole idea of like go to market, and it's definitely shifting more from marketing to go to market. You and I are kind of responsible for that with People First GTM. It's not just about marketing anymore. It's about thinking about the whole customer experience and how all the teams, aka go to market teams, create and then foster, nurture that customer experience. But going back to Clay, like they're like saying, hey, or at least Amos is saying, it's a big fraud. It's like, they just have shitty software. Like they don't have a front end. There's a lot of tools that have been built to build a front end for Clay. That is 100% a fact. They don't have that many GTM engineers. He looked at the stats on LinkedIn. I think that he found there's a total of 680. And what he was calling out, because they talked about this movement, how they're building a movement in their press release, Clay. Most of those people are either Clay employees or Clay agencies. So it's kind of like, again, with any stat, double click, triple click into it, you start to kind of understand the whole picture. So yeah, it's an interesting take. And I do think there's validity in this new type of work. Who cares about the title? Labels, whatever. But there is new types of work being done thanks to new technology. That's undeniable. And I think it is good marketing. Is it going to sustain itself? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, look, like ABM, I think is dying a little bit off right now. RevOps might be getting replaced with a GTM engineer. The tide comes in, the tide goes out, and it's really hard to design a whole new, brand new function, Rachel. It's not like, hey, there's marketing, sales, and customer success, customer support. We haven't seen a new function in a long time. Good luck to anyone who tries to do that. But the whole post is interesting. You should read it. And I see both sides of the coin. I see why people don't like it. I see people why they do like it. At the end of the day, trying to get attention is hard. What Clay's doing is smart. I respect them for that. And I don't really have any problem with it personally.
Well, I think the thing that comes to mind for me is like, if you're getting that much of an investment, you can kind of do whatever you want because you've got the money to make it happen. So maybe Amos is feeling a little salty, but I'm just joking. I think Amos
we love
is
you.
Awesome. We 1,000%. But the other thing that I kind of think about in this idea of like a new function, to me, it feels premature. It feels like everyone is acting like they've got everything figured out when they don't have it all figured out because the tech itself hasn't even figured itself out yet. And so for you to like actually invest in developing an entirely new function feels premature, but I don't know. That's just me because I tend to put the cart before the horse and then regret it later. So,
well, yeah, GTM Engineer, like, I mean, it is really just RevOps. Like, trust me.
Like, why are we rebranding RevOps? That's also still new, I feel like.
Yeah, it is new. I mean, that's what it is, though, because like I am a Clay customer. We use Clay. We like Clay. Like,
amazing.
We use Clay.
Stand for Clay.
We have 2 RevOps people using Clay. Like, then we're not calling them GTM engineers.
But they are, functionally.
It's the same thing.
That's like where I get annoyed when people like the CEO is the chief meaningful officer or something. I'm like, why are we remarketing the function that we've already determined that we already know what it is? Like, if I have to think this hard to figure out what your job is, I'm probably not going to have the conversation with you.
I mean, you got to call O'Latney at 6 and she's, chief market officer, like a GTM.
Chief market officer?
Yeah, she came up with that years ago.
I thought she was CRO.
Well, she is now, but like she championed this idea of chief market officer. If you go to
well, Latney can do that. Latney is allowed to do that.
But yeah, I mean, look, I'm guilty of this. That's what good marketers do. They reposition, rebrand something. I mean, and then also marketers ruin everything like we've talked about in past episodes.
Well, let's see if marketers are ruining this or if it is actually the new wave and it is replacing the RevOps. TBD?
We shall see.
All right. Well, we're going to move us right along and nobody in B2B wants this. And I'm taking a hard left and I'm going personal because nobody in B2B wants to know your morning routine. Thank
you for saying that. Like
okay.
I don't even want to see that on LinkedIn, Instagram,
like I
Facebook.
Don't care. I don't care. Like the thing that drives me nuts is, and again, I've talked about the bro culture that we have and that we have cherished and that we love. And it is no shade. It is no hate because I love all people. But there tends to be skewed that the hustle culture skews male, Mark. And so I have to call it out.
No, it does. It does. It does.
And there's a story that the founder shares his success in his morning routine. And it is 3 cups of coffee and an ice bath. And he's working in a kitchen. So he starts his day off at 5:30, does a quick walk outside, which is awesome, immediately followed by a breathing exercise, mixture of lemon juice and Celtic sea salt, and an electrolyte drink. Then he enters a sauna for 10 minutes, and then he has his first cup of coffee. Then he does a brief but intense ice bath, lasting up to 6 minutes, and then it is followed by a half-hour workout, another cup of coffee, then a shower, and then he finally dresses up for his day. Then he gets ready, writes on his goals, reviews his bank accounts. Then he does an audiobook during his 3rd coffee. Then he goes to the office at 8. Then he has breakfast, which of course he shares that, has more coffee, reviews the calendar, and then preps for the day ahead. That is his structure every single day. And it is from 5:30 to 8:15. I don't care about your workout routine. First of all, this man either has a saint of a partner and does everything for him in the morning, or he has no children, or XYZ, you know what I'm saying?
Or
like,
just
it
fake
is
news.
like,
it's fake news.
Or it's fake news. Like you've done that one time in your life, sir, and now you're branding that as your morning routine. Like, look, we win some and we lose some, but I'm so sick of hearing about these people's extraordinary, like, what is it? What's the word I'm looking for? Like exorbitant. What is that word?
Over the top
mornings where I'm like, that is not attainable for 99% of the human population that works in B2B.
No, it's not even good. It's like LinkedIn should ban that content. This is where LinkedIn is going down this slippery downhill slope. Like, I can't wait till there's a LinkedIn replacement because it's coming. Just how like Facebook got replaced by Instagram and they saved it by buying them. Then they got replaced by TikTok, right? Like who uses Facebook? No one uses Facebook.
I mean, my mom.
That's what I mean. Like
I use it for my kids' sports.
It went from being cool to not cool. LinkedIn is now in a transition period of being cool to not cool.
I needed to stay cool like a few more years longer, which is why I wanted to bring this up, because I'm like, hey, this is my plea for you all. And nobody in B2B wants your morning routine. We do want your humility. We do want your ideas and the things that you're trying without confidence. That's what we want. We want your vulnerability, but not in a cringy way.
But we don't want your personal information on LinkedIn. At I don't. Like, I will unfollow you, like say this is not appropriate. Like, I'll do one of those things on LinkedIn. Like, I will. I've done it. I do it. I'm like, nope.
Have you unfollowed me? Because sometimes I post about little life things.
Well, no. Like friends, people I know, I won't do because that's just a little too harsh.
My thing is like, what I don't want is the thing that happened with your kid that all of a sudden changed your go-to-market strategy. That's what I don't like. Because I'm like, you are stretching, friends. If it's just about your kid and like the messy of life and it's fun, fine. But don't preach at me. That's my thing. Let's not preach. Let's just be in community with each other and living life.
Yeah, that's tough. That's not going to be realistic for a lot of LinkedIn. For a lot of LinkedIn, I'd say. Maybe the majority is not preaching, but there's a loud minority of people preaching. And I've been guilty of this. I raise my hand. I have been guilty of preaching.
We accidentally preach sometimes, but if we show up with humility, it's all good. So with that, we're super excited for you guys to learn from Max. Max comes to the party with a ton of experience and he shares some insight. So if you pay really close attention, you're going to hear some wisdom dropped and no hustle culture propaganda. We are here with Max Gartner, and I don't know, Max, if we're allowed to call you Max or if we have to say Maximilian. Is that how you say it?
It is, yeah. I'll let you get away with Max. Huh?
All right, we're going to go with Max because I can't pronounce anything. So Max, we're so excited to have you here. Max is the head of go-to-market at Brightwave. Max, go ahead and just give us the foundation real quick before we jump into the mix and give us the 30-second, what is Brightwave?
Sure. So been in B2B GTM for the last 10 plus years, mostly concentrated in earlier stage startups, various different types of roles, a few really exciting exits. And now leading go-to-market at Brightwave, which is an AI investment research platform for investors. And so basically what that means is for investors on the public or private side, it's giving them the ability to go across a large collection of documents and almost instantaneously understand what's in those documents, what matters to them relevant to the kind of factors they typically use to analyze a deal, and then finally turn that into outputs, reports that are editable, that are iterative, to fundamentally compress the time by which they go from document chaos to a high conviction decision that obviously is a lot of time and money on the line.
Well, I got to ask though, so how are you different than Notion? Because you could just upload all those docs to Notion, couldn't you?
So what you can't do with Notion is, first off, Brightwave is based on LLM technology. And so what Notion can't do, my understanding, Notion is not an LLM, right? So, you could upload, let's say 100 documents, but I'll give you an example, right? Let's say I am evaluating Lyft to make an investment, okay? And I pull in 10Ks, 10Qs, SEC filings. I pull in news articles. Let's say it's, 50, 100, 200 documents. I basically ask Brightwave, the agent, hey, thinking about Lyft, here's what I care about. Compare this relative to what I've invested in the past and current events. And within a few seconds, I'm going to have a multi-page report with charts and graphs and commentary on different sections on, hey, is this a good decision? Yes or no? And it isn't replacing the investor. It's basically acting as a force multiplier for the accumulated judgment and experience and wisdom that I have. Again, compressing the time by which I go from, this collection of chaos to I'm ready to pull the trigger.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's like doing a lot of the analyzation, the analysis, the critiquing of all that, and with the context of what it's purpose built for versus Notion's a little bit more, I wouldn't say vanilla, but it's not going to do that thoughtful, directional type of analysis. That's interesting. It's, I pivot to GTM now for a second. I bring Notion up because we have ingested all of our GTM sources of truth, like Bibles, if you will. Like, this is how we run this process. This is how we do this. This is all of our messaging positioning. So our team now at Easy Llama can go into Notion, Control-Alt-Delete, if you know what I'm talking about. It's a fancy Notion thing. And in Slack, they can just do /ask. And in Slack, you can ask Notion anything. and it's going to bring up an answer and then give you the citations for it. So we're talking about GTM here today, and I think that's a very powerful way to enable your GTM teams now, like through just like real time answers. So like, I know you run GTM at Brightwave, correct? The whole shebang.
Yes.
What's your perspective on like, how are you running your GTM and enabling your team as part of like these just dramatic changes in the last 2 years?
Well, the first thing, I mean, we use Brightwave for GTM enablement. And so back to the kind of value proposition, large collection of documents, there are things I'm looking for. It's not just a matter of like control F on this entire body of documents. It's no, bring to me a narrative, weave together the disparate data points and the pieces of information to give me a point of view I otherwise maybe haven't considered. And so, for example, take all of my call transcripts with prospects over the last 2 quarters and pull out every time we were talking about a competitor, who they were, strengths and weaknesses, how the customer responded, and give a critique on that, for example.
So I'm just going to ask a question. So that's the use case that you're using within Brightwave, but can people outside of Brightwave leverage the platform for that as well, or no?
You have to be a user of Brightwave.
Okay.
But I think, Mark, to your question about, other methods of AI, I mean, what's crazy for me is before I'm stepping into a meeting, the amount of time that I would typically need to take to understand who's in this meeting, what are their backgrounds, what might they care about, where is this company, what did they talk about on their last earnings call, like what are all the relevant factors, like, I mean, that stuff could take hours. And then, by the way, that's stepping into a meeting. If I'm trying to develop a list of high conviction ICP accounts, I mean, that is work that I can now do in minutes, which is crazy. So what that allows me to do, and I think this goes back to something that I'm seeing, what AI has done, especially for GTM professionals, is it's made specialization, it's made depth that much more important. In a world in which anybody can get the answers to anything at the tip of their fingers, what are you doing differently? How are you going deeper than the stuff I can pull on ChatGPT within a few seconds?
How big is your go-to-market team? How's it set up?
So the company itself, we're only about a dozen people right now. And so,
so you're early stage startup, really early stage. Okay, cool.
So it's a few of us that are running at it. And look, part of why we're keeping it that way in the near term is because, and this is also kind of one of the things that I'm seeing, one of the trends emerging, traditionally it's okay, we've got 15, 20 plus $1 million that have been backed into this company to go scale, go to market. But hang on a second. I think what AI has also enabled, in addition to employment dynamics, where you see more kind of specialized fractional work, people who are saying, for example, like, I am the best fill in the blank. I am the best outbound meeting getter in the business. I have my own kind of specialty shop, whatever. I think it is a force multiplier for the kind of spiky players, right? And spiky organizations. And people talk about, I think, Sam Altman said with ChatGPT, you're going to see the first $1 billion one person company, something like that. And how I interpret that is AI has enabled people who are just really, really good in one domain or one area, hook up with like a small group of people who are really, really good, who's super spiky in another given area, and then basically use AI for everything else, or bring in third-party vendors who are super spiky in a specific domain. And then from there, it's just optimized for feedback cycle rate. So you can have GTM teams that are a fraction of the size as they were before because of these tools and because of what employment dynamics and I think what AI has enabled. That's what we're seeing.
Here's the thing that I'm curious about, and this doesn't need to be a product talk. So just thinking AI in general is what I'm going to say, because I don't want you to take this as if I'm challenging the product, because I'm not.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I found with AI in my own use cases and my own limited experience is that AI has this tendency to like make stuff up.
Yeah.
And sort of like, I call it like the stoned intern. Like you have to like constantly remind it what it's doing and then remind it what it's doing and remind it what it's doing. And so when you think about the leveraging of Brightwave for your kind of unification across your go-to-market functions, like, and if you have specialists coming in and all of these things, like how do you make sure that everyone is still pulling the same thread of truth across all of the functions?
Really good point. And what I always start with is the point of view, right? Which is at baseline, what is the narrative, the story that we're all buying into? how do we think about in as granular detail as possible the problem space that we're inhabiting, who our buyer is, what their world looks like, what their day-to-day is, what are their KPIs, what's the kind of the adjacent like tech stack that they work with, how does our solution set map to that relative to status quo, relative to competitive dynamics. So like, and by the way, that's always evolving. It's not like a one and done type exercise. I think that's a constant iteration, but that to me, from there, everything else flows. So I think to your point, Rachel, one of the things I'm also seeing is, oh, AI, this is just like the easy button. I just slap AI on this and all of a sudden I'm going to get all these meetings or I'm going to get all these customers or no, of course not. I think AI is a force multiplier for those who have developed massive pattern recognition and skills and experience in a specific domain. That's where I'm seeing the magic happen. But you need that foundation in order for everything else downstream to work together.
I love what you said about depth. And, you know, Mark and I just had an episode with Nicole. I'm going to butcher her last name, Warshire. And one of the things that we were talking a lot about, because of course we talk about AI, like what B2B leader is not talking about AI right now. But one of the things that kind of we identified was that it's almost like a values question in terms of like, how are you thinking about AI? How are you actually using it? And we talked about the word integrity and having some experience and making sure that you're curating based on experience and not just like being a part of the AI slop that's going out into the world. And Max, one of the things you just said was the depth. And I think that that is such a interesting word. I've not heard anyone describe it that way. And I think it's such an accurate portrayal of how people should really be leveraging and thinking about AI and even choosing partners that are saying that they are AI first or whatever, and understanding the depth in which they're bringing to the party in order to be able to leverage this sort of force multiplier that you're describing. So I just want to call that out for the listeners because I think the word depth is not being used. And I think it's a word that we should be paying attention to.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And I think it's also something that in AI commoditizes so much. It commoditizes all the frameworks and best practices and knowledge that can be easily transferred. Depth cannot be transferred. Depth is expensive knowledge. Depth is years and years working in a problem space and just knowing, developing a sense of like intuition and kind of taste of what's happening and how to make a move against that. And so I believe in the AI world and where we're going, that will be so much more important than it ever was before. You can afford to go super deep in a specific area because AI is going to be able to kind of get you a baseline in all these other areas. And so I think you're going to see in the future, especially those who can just find a niche, find a domain and go super deep are going to be the ones who run away with the success. And you see it already, by the way.
Yeah. I don't know if it's just you guys, but I keep seeing the scene from Wolf of Wall Street with Matthew McConaughey and Leo, and he just starts doing this. It's like he's like, this is how you feel it. Like that's, yes. I think there's minus the drug use, but like, I think literally like that is what it is of like the people who understand intuitively what actually needs to happen because they're so connected to the material. So I love that framing of it. Mark, you got something?
No, I'm just curious, like what are some specific ways you're bringing this product to market? Like this show is all about, sure, like AI can help you bring your product to market a little bit, but it's not going to get you very far today. It's more of I think the agent stuff is still overblown. I think it's just really just, you know, assistance at best. There's very few like real digital workers doing the work that, you know, they're assisting humans. They're not doing the work of humans. So how do you bring like your product to the market? What GTM playbooks or motions are you using? And how maybe are you using, you know, AI with that motion or strategy? The way we're predominantly bringing our product to market right now is we're actually oriented much more towards a product-led growth type motion. And the reason is a fewfold. Number one, when you use the product, like it almost feels like a consumer type experience. Like it doesn't feel too dissimilar from like a ChatGPT or a Claude or Perplexity. And so my lens on the problem when I first started was, okay, if we're building something that we're saying is incredibly easy to use and get value from quickly, we can't hide it behind a bunch of gated content and, you know, very polished, slick demos, and you need to have 5 calls with me before I give you access to the product. Like that's just cognitive dissonance that is going to really screw us over. And so we need to basically design a process to get this in the hands of people as easily as possible for them to see the value. Again, if that's what we're building, which is what we are. And by the way,
there are also competitive dynamics at play that kind of also make that advantageous for us. I think the other thing too is back to the kind of what is AI introduced? And I mean, I'm sure you've all noticed this, like just the last 6 to 12 months, the speed at which everything is moving crazy. And so what product-led growth motion also allows for is information collection at a rate that is impossible to do if you're hiding your product, for lack of a better way of saying it, right? And so by getting the product front-loaded in the buyer experience, the amount of information that we're collecting across every end of the funnel and then feeding that back into how do we do things differently? How do we improve the product? It's going to be a huge accelerator for us. So that's how we think about bringing the product to market, and why that decision was made was in large part kind of what does the landscape look like today? Who's our buyer? What's the competitive dynamics? What are our resources? What are our limitations? And we're seeing a ton of adoption based on that.
So someone can sign up for a free version of your product. Is that kind of what you're saying? And try it out?
Yeah. So we offer free trials for a couple weeks. And basically at this point in time, what we find to be useful is instead of just chucking a license over the fence, hop on a 20-minute onboarding call. Someone from myself from our team has a conversation with you. Hey, let me share with you, what are some use cases that people in your shoes are using Brightwave for, how they're getting value, and then spending the majority of the time having them share their screen and show you, and kind of get comfortable with the tool. So that after that, it's like they get it. And what we're hearing are things like, within 20 minutes, I got it, right? Or, this has saved me days on a process that, I ran last week, for example.
Yeah, I think it's important because most sales teams suck. And I bought a lot of software. I just bought something the other day, and I just was on a podcast this morning about how shitty the second half of that buying experience was. Most sales processes don't actually create or add any value, maybe minimal value to the buyer. You only get that maybe within the first 30 days, hopefully within the first 90 days. If not within the first 90 days, you might be really screwed as a vendor. So yeah, I mean, the way that you're doing it and talking about it is, I think, extremely important for a lot of companies to move in that direction. I'm a huge believer in having a free plan or at a minimum free trial that you can actually get some value, or using interactive demos to show people your product, and you can kind of like take it like as a test drive, like a car. But like, if you can deliver value to the buyer before they give you any money, that is going to be super valuable. We did this at HubSpot through education. We gave away a ton of free education before we even had a free product. Once we had a free product, we layered in education in a one-to-many way. You're doing it in a kind of one-to-one way that just amplified that value creation and made people more likely to buy at a higher ASP. And then actually what we saw is the retention was better because they already believed in the thing. They already saw value. And now it's just more about continuing to deliver incremental value. So that's a very important point. For anyone listening who's thinking about their sales process, study how much value you deliver to a buyer before they sign a contract. And that will give you a lot of insight into what you should maybe change.
100%.
I want to lean in a little bit on this, on maybe a less of a technology perspective and more of the human side of it. So, you're talking about Brightwave and it's a PLG model, but it sounds like you're building an intentional relationship building opportunities through these conversations in the onboarding process. You've had a ton of experience at other companies working with large enterprise clients. Like, how do you think about the relationship building side of things as you're building Brightwave in this new model with AI? Talk to me a little bit about that. I
think what hasn't changed is the fact that whoever the buyer is, whether it's a local business, the auto body shop down the street, or it's the largest bank in the world, the customer has to be the hero. The customer has to be at the center of the narrative, regardless of the tool set and everything else. And so it's like, what does their world look like today? What does success look like for them? How do they think about that from a quantitative or qualitative standpoint? Like, how do I just optimize for that? And then everything else follows. And to your point, Mark, like what I've also seen is if we orient ourselves around value creation over value capture, like everything kind of takes care of itself after a while. Like you don't have to worry about nickel and diming people or extracting as much value up front the sales process. If you just continue to understand, okay, so if I'm selling to Rachel, okay, what's her role? What does she care about? How does she measure on success? Like what moves the needle for her? And then once I understand that, we design a process to make that happen. By the way, as fast as possible and as often as possible. I
keep thinking, and Mark, you're going to roll your eyes potentially, but basically it's like PLG, but it's people first PLG. And I'm curious, Mark, the shitty experience that you just had, is there a piece of the relational equity that was like done in like a transactional mode, or like I'm curious like what was missing in that experience that maybe there could have been a human element that would have saved it for you?
Yeah, that was exactly it. So it started as PLG, product-led growth. We signed up for this free product. It came with 5 seats. It was an enrichment product. We needed more credits. I upgraded the credits. Then a few weeks later, we needed more seats, but you couldn't actually get more seats unless you talked to a human. So I requested a demo in the app. No one followed up. I requested a demo on the website and in the app again. No one followed up. So this is like 5 days now at this point, and I couldn't believe it. Like, you're literally a customer of yours, paying you money. You requested a demo, and no one follows up within at least 24 hours. And then I publicly went out with this. So I finally publicly had to get the company involved to get their attention. Then they, like, the salespeople, like, had like no sympathy or like empathy for what happened. Just horrifically bad. It started out really good because they had a really unique differentiator against their competitors. Most of their competitors did not offer a true PLG motion, which is a huge advantage. And then they completely effed up the second half of that sales process, which is really more, you could call it like an expansion upgrade process. Now, I've probably told this story to 10 people. So the brain damage that this is doing, it's significant, right? Like, it's not like, huge. I'm not going to do like a huge, like, flaming LinkedIn post about it. That's not cool. I'm just trying to help the company get better. But, I'm never going to recommend probably this company because of that experience. So like, people just don't realize that every interaction someone has with a company is either a moment to create trust and delight or to really F things up. So you got to really pay attention and like train your team and be obsessed with how your team is handling customer situations, and make sure your process and data tech stack is super dialed in. Like, I watch every single day, and I have 2 other people watching it, all of the inbound meetings coming in. We get probably 30 to 40 inbound meetings a day. So like, we're obsessed with how fast do we respond, how personalized is that response, and make sure nothing falls through the crack. It blows me away that more companies don't focus on that.
Yeah.
I actually want to lean into this for our next segment with you, Max, because I think that in the age of AI, brand is going to have a bigger play, and I think brand is where the human comes to life. And so I want to kind of move us into our next segment. But before I do that, I want to go back and just pause for a second. And you're intentionally are creating a lean team. You're leveraging your own platform to create unification across your go-to-market functions. We're talking about this opportunity for people to like really screw things up by not having the human connection. How are you thinking about building for scale when part of even what you're talking about does require some of that human connection?
Mm-hmm. So I don't think they have to be mutually exclusive in a sense, where if I optimize for building a team that is a collection of people who, and I use the word spiky, right? They're just like exceptionally skilled in one area. And I use AI for a lot of kind of the baseline stuff. And then it's just a matter of, okay, until we're all at absolute capacity, we don't expand the team. And to your point, Mark, I think part of the challenge that you ran into, and I don't know the size of the company, but number one, I bet you the incentives are off. So like, who's incentivized to do that? I don't know what the size of the upsell is, but I'm guessing that creates a problem. And so that's one. Two, when you have a large team and everybody's kind of focused on all these different things, like organizational bloat and incentive misalignment creates a lot of these problems where things fall through the cracks. Whereas if you have a smaller team that's exceptional in these categories, the likelihood of that happening is just significantly lower.
Oh, I subscribe to that. Obviously, I run a services business and we've had to stay lean because we're bootstrapped and we do it that way. But it's so true because the more people you get in place, the harder it is to get everyone enrolled, the harder it is to create consistency. And I think AI is going to help with some of that. But I think that's a thoughtful response. So I appreciate that.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of GTM News Desk presented by TAC Insider. To dive into the exclusive content with our guest today, head to the link in the show notes to subscribe to TAC Insider. Until next time, I'm Mark Killens.
And I'm Rachel Eltz Downey. Let's keep it people first, everybody.